The gravel crunched under my boots as I walked up my daughter's driveway that late September afternoon. Ontario wind, the kind that carries a warning in it. I had a folder tucked under my arm, stiff, cream-colored, notary seal pressed into the corner. Inside it was a life I never expected to have. My brother Raymond had left me everything. A waterfront cottage on Lake Muskoka worth close to $3 million. 2 rental properties in downtown Toronto pulling $18,000 a month. A stock portfolio sitting just north of $4.5 million. At 63 years old, after 41 years driving long haul for Canadian Pacific, I was suddenly wealthier than I'd ever imagined a man like me could be. I'd practiced the speech the whole drive from my bungalow in Oshawa. I was going to sit Claire down at that kitchen island she loved, slide the folder across the granite, and tell her that her old man had finally come into something. That her mortgage was gone. That her boys, my grandsons Ethan and Cole, would have their university paid for. No student loans, no part-time jobs pulling them away from their studies. That she could quit that marketing job she complained about every Sunday dinner, and maybe finally write that book she talked about since she was 17. I lost her mother to pancreatic cancer 6 years ago. Since then, Claire was my whole world. Today I was going to change hers. I was about to knock on the mudroom door when I heard my son-in-law's voice through the screen. Marcus was 41, worked in what he called financial consulting in Mississauga. Near as I could tell, he shuffled other people's money between accounts and took a cut. I never liked him. Never trusted the way his eyes slid off mine when we shook hands. But Claire loved him and the boys adored him, so I kept my mouth shut for 11 years. I kept it shut for about 11 more seconds, which is how long it took him to change everything. I'm telling you, Claire, the man is a walking liability. He's 63, his pension barely covers groceries. His house is worth what, $250 on a good day? He eats here 3 times a week. He's going to outlive us at this rate. My hand froze an inch from the screen door. Marcus, please. He's my father. And I'm your husband. We need to think practically. My mother went through this with her dad. By the time he passed, they'd spent $80,000 on home care alone. That's Ethan's entire undergrad, Claire. Dad isn't sick. He's healthy as a horse for now. But you've seen him. The way he repeats himself. The way he forgot Cole's hockey tournament last month. I had not forgotten Cole's hockey tournament. Cole had told me it was cancelled. I remember because I'd driven 40 minutes to Whitby before I got the text. He's just getting older, Marcus. Exactly. And we need a plan. There's a place in Peterborough, Maple Ridge Manor. Decent enough. Shared rooms but affordable. We sell his bungalow, put the proceeds toward the entrance fee. The government picks up the rest. He's got maybe $1,000 a month between CPP and OAS. That covers incidentals. You want to put my dad in a nursing home. I want to be realistic. He can't live alone forever. And frankly, I'm not spending my weekends changing his diapers when the time comes. Neither are you. We have kids to raise, careers to build. He had his life. Now it's our turn. I heard Claire start to cry. Soft, muffled, like she was hiding it from him. Sweetheart, I'm not being cruel. I'm being realistic. And listen, between you and me, I've already talked to a lawyer about power of attorney. We need to make sure we can handle his finances, his house, everything before some scammer worms their way in. He's not going to agree to that. He doesn't have to. We get him to sign during a lucid moment. Hell, I can draft the paperwork myself. Slip it in with a birthday card or a Father's Day thing. He'll sign anything you put in front of him if you're the one asking. I took one slow step backward. Then another. My boots made no sound on the concrete walk. I sat behind the wheel of my Silverado for a long time without turning the key. My hands were shaking, not from sadness. From something older and colder than that. I'd driven through February blizzards at 3 in the morning with black ice under my tires and 80,000 pounds of freight behind me. I'd buried my father, my mother, and my wife. I had never in my life felt the kind of fury rising in me at that moment. I drove home, made a coffee, sat at my kitchen table and opened the folder and looked at the final page. 7.9 million and change, give or take the market's mood. And I made a decision. They wanted to think I was a burden. A forgetful old man with a dying pension and a house worth nothing. Fine. Let them think exactly that. For 3 weeks I played the part. I showed up to Sunday dinner in the same flannel shirt I'd owned since the 90s. Work boots with splitting soles. I mentioned the price of milk twice in one conversation. I asked Marcus, with my best confused old man squint, to explain Google to me. I told Claire I'd been thinking about selling the bungalow, getting too much to shovel every winter. The look on Marcus's face. You know, Dan, he said, leaning back with the easy confidence of a man who thinks he's already won, Claire and I have been talking, and we've actually been thinking about you a lot. There's a place near Peterborough, Maple Ridge. Lots of activities. Shuffleboard, bingo nights. Other folks your age. Maybe, I said. I'd have to think on it. Sell the house first. Oh, we could help with that. I know a guy in real estate. Get it listed quick. Save you the stress. Asterisk, that would be a real weight off my shoulders, Marcus. I'd never called him son before. He didn't even notice. Claire wouldn't look at me during any of this. She pushed her food around her plate and stared at her wine glass. I caught her eye once, just for a second, and I saw something I hadn't seen in a long time. Shame. Real bone-deep shame. She knew what was happening was wrong. She just didn't know how to stop it. That one look saved her. Because driving home that night, I understood something. My daughter wasn't the enemy. She was a hostage. 11 years of marriage to a man who'd slowly convinced her that every instinct she had was wrong, that her father was a problem to be solved, that love was something you calculated on a spreadsheet. I was going to get her back. But first, I was going to burn Marcus to the ground. Monday morning, I called a Bay Street firm in Toronto. Real lawyers, glass doors, receptionist who probably earned more than I used to. A woman named Ms. Patel, recommended by one of Raymond's old business partners. I told her the whole story. She listened without interrupting, took tidy notes, and when I finished, she told me 3 things. First, Marcus could not force me into a nursing home. Nobody could. Not without a doctor's assessment and a legal finding of incapacity, which I was nowhere near. Second, if he drafted fraudulent power of attorney documents, that was a criminal offense under the Ontario Criminal Code. Third, and this was the one that made me smile for the first time in 3 weeks, she had a forensic accountant on retainer who specialized in exactly this kind of family fraud. And if I wanted, he could take a very quiet look at my son-in-law's finances. I wanted. 2 weeks later, Patel slid a manila envelope across her desk. Marcus was drowning. 3 lines of credit maxed out. 2 in Claire's name that she almost certainly didn't know about. $97,000 lost in a cryptocurrency scheme the previous fall. 9 months behind on a second mortgage he'd taken out by forging Claire's signature on the documents. And he was currently under investigation by the Financial Services Regulatory Authority of Ontario for misappropriating approximately $210,000 in client funds. He had, at my estimate, about 6 weeks before the whole house of cards collapsed. I could have let it happen, but it would have taken Claire down with it. The forged loans were in her name. The credit damage would have followed her for a decade. I couldn't let that happen. Even after what she'd let him say about me, she was still my little girl. The kid who used to sit on my lap in the truck cab and count red cars on the 401. So I called Marcus. Lunch at a diner in Whitby. I told him I wanted to talk about selling the bungalow. He showed up in a new watch. Omega stainless steel. $8,000 on the wrist of a man 9 months behind on his mortgage, having lunch with his broke father-in-law. Marcus, I've been thinking about what you said. The nursing home thing. Think you're right. I'm ready to sign whatever you need, power of attorney, house sale, the works. He tried not to smile. He really did. But I saw the corner of his mouth twitch, and I watched a little vein in his temple pulse with pure, undiluted greed. Dan, that takes real courage. Admitting when you need help. One condition. I want a lawyer present. My lawyer. I want to sign it in her office with witnesses. All above board. That way nobody can ever say I was confused or pressured. Half a second of hesitation. Then of course. That's smart, Dan. Very smart. I picked up the bill. $22. Marcus had ordered a 12-year-old scotch at $18 a glass and didn't offer to contribute. I tipped 30% and walked into the parking lot feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. I felt like a father again. Friday. Miss Patel's office. Long oval table, 3 people already seated when we walked in. My lawyer. And 2 others Marcus didn't recognize. He looked at me. Marcus, This is Detective Sergeant Rowan from the Halton Regional Police Financial Crimes Unit. And this is Mr. Chun, the forensic accountant I retained 2 months ago. The color drained out of his face in 3 stages. White, gray, something close to green. I opened the cream-colored folder, the same one I'd carried to Claire's house nearly 2 months before, and laid it on the table between us. On August 29th, my brother Raymond passed away and left me an estate valued at $7.9 million. A cottage on Lake Muskoka, 2 rental properties, a stock portfolio. I was coming to your house that afternoon to tell you both. I was going to pay off your mortgage, set up education trusts for Ethan and Cole, give Claire enough to walk away from that job she hates and actually write her book. Claire made a sound I can't really describe, like someone had reached into her chest and squeezed. But then I stood on your back step and I listened to your husband call me a walking liability. I listened to him plan to forge my signature onto a power of attorney. I listened to him plan to sell my house out from under me and dump me in a shared room in Peterborough. I slid the manila envelope across the table. Inside this folder, Marcus, is a summary of the $340,000 of debt you've accumulated in my daughter's name without her knowledge, the forged signature on your second mortgage, the cryptocurrency losses, and the preliminary FSRA report indicating you're under active investigation for misappropriating $210,000 in client funds. Detective Rowan opened his notebook. Marcus started to stand. Miss Patel's voice stopped him cold. Sit down. Claire, I said. Look at me. Not at him. At me. She did. I love you. I have loved you since the moment your mother put you in my arms at Lakeridge Hospital at 4 in the morning on a Tuesday. I am so sorry you have been living with this for 11 years. I should have seen it sooner. But I'm saying something now. You deserve better than this. Your boys deserve better than this. And I'm going to make sure you get it. She started crying. Really crying. Not the muffled kind from that September afternoon. The kind that shakes your whole body. Detective Rowan asked Marcus to come with him. Marcus looked at Claire, reached for her hand. She pulled it away like his fingers were made of fire. Don't, she said. Don't ever touch me again. They took him out through the side door. The whole thing took maybe 4 minutes. Marcus was charged with forgery, uttering forged documents, and fraud over $5,000. The FSRA investigation concluded separately. He pleaded out. 4 years federal, probably 2 with good behavior. Miss Patel handled Claire's divorce. The forged loans were unwound. A forged signature isn't a valid contract. The Oakville house was sold. I bought Claire a real house in Burlington, Quiet Street, maple tree in the front yard, finished basement for the boys. Paid cash. Put it in her name. I set up the education trust for Ethan and Cole. I put enough aside that Claire could leave her job and try the book she'd wanted to write since she was 17. She's about 40,000 words in now. It's about a single mother raising 2 sons in Ontario. It's going to be good. I can tell. We spend long weekends at the Muskoka cottage in the summers. Last August, Cole asked me why I'd never told anyone I was rich. I thought about it for a minute. I wasn't rich then, buddy. I didn't become rich until about 2 months after I found out about the money. He looked confused. He's 12. He'll understand someday. I became rich the day my daughter chose her family back. The money was just paperwork. People ask if I forgave Claire. The answer is I never really needed to. She was drowning in deeper water than I could see from the shore. All she needed was a hand. Marcus, though, I'll be honest with you. I hope every single day inside feels like a week. I hope he thinks about that cream-colored folder on Miss Patel's table, and what his life could have been if he'd just been a decent man to the people who loved him. Because that's the thing about family. My old man used to say it back when he was still working the steel mill in Hamilton. Danny, family is not about what you get from them. It's about what you're willing to give. Marcus thought family was something you harvest, something you mine until the seam runs dry. He thought I was the seam. He was wrong. I was the dynamite.